Hey everybody, and welcome to your first lesson in the principles of design. In the first one, we'll be going over scale. And scale is simply having a model in the scene that you can reference with another model. Now I've got this guy on the plane, but the plane doesn't show you anything about scale. It doesn't show you anything about depth. He's just an object in 3D space. So what we need to do is place another object in the scene so that we have a reference. And what I'll do is I'll grab this tree and bring this over. Now that doesn't show me where the object is in relation to the tree, and it doesn't show me his scale or the tree. It's just two objects. So one of those important principles to achieve the scale is to overlap. And if I just bring him over, he's now behind the tree, but you can't really tell where he's at. He's just behind it. Now if I take him and move him on the front side of the tree, we can tell that he's closer to the camera than the object behind him, but we still don't really know how big he is. So what we're going to have to do is make him look like his scale and the tree look like his scale, and then we'll throw something in the background to make it look really big so you can get an overall idea of the scale of the scene. Alright, so I've added this ferocious low poly corgi, and I think he looks pretty big, but we don't know where he's at and why is he that big, how close is he to our guy. And so I'm just going to turn our guy around a little bit so he can face off with said corgi, and what I will do is I will scale him down a touch. I kind of played around with the background a little bit so you can see better what I'm talking about, and I will move Killer Corgi up here, but we still don't actually see like the depth, right? The distance. We've got some scale set up and it looks somewhat reasonable with the human standing here, and I've got a little overlap, which is super important. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just copy a few of these trees and let's just move them. And this is looking kind of 2D-ish, but it's okay because what I'm trying to show is the lead up, and this works in 3D as well. And so if I copy this again and make our corgi look like he is just an absolute monster, and we'll do it again, and now it almost looks like he looks like he's about 600 feet tall, right? So that can give you a little bit of an idea of how to scale, how to overlap. And now I want to actually move this over, just over the edge of his foot, and now you can see where he's at in relation. Now if I took this tree and then moved it behind this one, I'll have to actually jump back out. I don't want to unhide. I want to unhide you. Come back. And I will move this one back and maybe scale it a touch up. And there you go. Now that tree is behind it. Now we could kind of amp this up and give the corgi some more scale. And you could throw something else in the background. I think I'll try a rock first. Let's go in and I'll go to mesh and I'll go to the rock generator since I have that enabled, and now I can just kind of make this big old rock and bring it down. Now that's pretty big. I like that, and now I will move that behind said killer corgi and come back to that view. It may not look like a rock. Alright, just for the tutorial's sake, that's bugging me so bad. I'm going to have to put a texture on that. Alright, so let's texture that and turn it into an actual rock. There you go. So now you got this giant rock back there, and you can see that this corgi is so much bigger. And just for the fun of it, what we could do is actually throw in a house. I do know that some of these house models will actually just crash out Blender, so I'm actually going to save that real quick. I'll drop the house in, I think like right here. I'll give that just a moment to produce itself. I'll grab the empty, and we can move the house over here, and I'll scale it down something like that. G and Y to bring it back, and go back to my front view. And I didn't plan that, but he's got his tail, his whole tail end on the house. Okay, so that looks good actually. And now you can see maybe he's chased this guy out of the house because he wants to eat him. But this gives you an idea of overlapping things for scale, because you wouldn't know the house. If the house is like over here, you don't know. But if it's like right behind the corgi, and or it's even smaller, you can see there's some distance there, then it gives your eye the perspective, and the human mind will accept that. Whether or not it looks totally realistic is completely irrelevant. What does matter, and my original tree and this guy, let me just hide this, grab this, G and Y. Okay, it's gonna bring, those are all copies, it's not trying to do it. What I can do is actually Alt-P and clear that. And now it shrunk my tree down, but that's okay. So I'll bring this back, and now I can kind of freely move this around, and now it's in front, and now I'll give my my overlap here. You can see what's kind of going on. And now my guy needs to be back over here as well. And maybe he's hiding behind the tree a little bit, and you can get a scale reference, if you will, on him as well. And so now you've got this wonderful scene. And even so, in 3D, if you were to just kind of pull this up a little bit and maybe rearrange the trees just a touch, then you can see where this is at. And it's just a matter of practice. So you need to fill your scene with enough information to give the viewer an idea of where things are. So you set up your scene that way, and that is setting up scale, and not just the scale of the overall scene, but the individual objects and overlapping. So it's super important.